Sometimes the loudest sound you'll ever make is silence. You don't need to argue, you don't need to beg, and you don't need to explain, because silence has a way of echoing louder than words. And when you finally walk away, trust me, your absence will speak, and your silence will burn in memory of those who took you for granted. Silence is often mistaken for weakness, but in reality, silence is one of the most powerful weapons you can ever use. Think about it. When you argue, when you shout, when you waste your breath trying to make someone understand your worth, you give them your energy, you give them your control. But when you choose silence, you take all that power back. Silence is not an absence of words. It's the presence of discipline. It's the ability to control your emotions when everything inside of you wants to explode. And the one who can control their tongue, who can master the storm within, will always come out stronger than the one who reacts out of impulse. When you stay silent, you put people in a position where they have to sit with their own actions. Silence forces them to confront the weight of what they did without you giving them a way out. Words can be twisted, arguments can be denied, excuses can be made, but silence cannot be argued with. It leaves no room for excuses. It leaves them with nothing to defend themselves against. That's why silence is not cowardice, it's strategy. When you're silent, you're not giving them fuel to fight back. You're letting their own guilt, their own regret, their own mistakes eat at them from the inside. The world teaches us to respond to disrespect with noise, to prove ourselves through arguments, to show our strength through confrontation. But real strength doesn't need to announce itself. Think about fire. Does fire make noise when it burns? No, it consumes quietly, and its power is undeniable. In the same way, your silence consumes pride, ego, and arrogance. It burns through the false confidence of those who thought they could treat you like you were disposable. And the beauty of it is, you don't even have to lift a finger. Your silence becomes a mirror, showing them what they've done, and that reflection is far more haunting than anything you could ever say. Silence also protects your peace. Every time you argue with someone who doesn't deserve your words, you are giving them access to your inner world. You are letting them rent space in your mind and steal your energy. But when you remain silent, you guard your spirit. You refuse to let them drain you of what makes you strong. You keep your dignity intact. The moment you stop explaining, stop arguing, stop trying to be understood, you free yourself. And freedom is power. You are no longer chained to their validation or their apology. You've stepped outside of their control, and that is a place they cannot reach. There is also wisdom in silence. Silence teaches patience. It teaches you to observe instead of react, to think instead of lash out. When you are silent, you can see the truth more clearly. You can see people's intentions, their patterns, their character, without the distraction of noise. And when you see clearly, you make better decisions. You choose wisely who deserves your energy and who doesn't. That kind of wisdom doesn't come from speaking. It comes from silence. The quiet moments are where you learn, where you grow, and where you strengthen your spirit. And once you've tasted that level of strength, you'll never waste your words on people who don't deserve them. Finally, silence creates mystery. It makes people wonder what's going on in your mind. And that uncertainty, that lack of access, is powerful. Because people fear what they don't understand, and they crave what they cannot control. When you go silent, they realize they no longer have a hold on you. They can't predict you, they can't manipulate you, they can't use your words against you. That's when regret begins to creep in. Because silence is not just the absence of noise. It is the presence of self-control, wisdom, and undeniable strength. And once you master it, you'll never again be at the mercy of anyone's disrespect. There is a strange truth about human nature. People rarely notice the value of something when it is right in front of them. As long as they have your presence, your attention, your loyalty, they begin to treat it as ordinary, as if it will always be there. They grow comfortable, they grow careless, but when you step back, when you create distance, when your absence is felt, that's when the reflection begins. That's when reality sets in. Because nothing teaches appreciation faster than the sudden silence of what used to be constant. Your absence becomes the teacher that your presence could never be. Think about it. When you are always available, always giving, always present, people take it for granted. It's human nature to overlook what is consistent. But the moment you withdraw, the moment your energy is no longer in the room, the weight of that loss is undeniable. They may not admit it out loud, but they feel it. The conversations don't sound the same without your voice. The days don't carry the same light without your presence. The things they ignored, the small acts of care, the sacrifices you made, all of it begins to surface in their memory, and that reflection can be painful. Because it's only in your absence that they see the treasure they once had in their hands. Absence creates a silence that cannot be ignored. It forces people to look at their actions without your presence to shield them from the truth. They are left alone with their own choices, their own mistakes, their own neglect. Your absence becomes a mirror that doesn't lie. It shows them the exact moment where they failed to appreciate you. And the longer that silence stretches, the heavier the reflection becomes. Regret is born not in the noise of arguments, but in the stillness of absence. And that regret doesn't fade easily. It lingers, it burns, it haunts. More importantly, your absence gives you power. When you are not around, when you don't call, when you don't show up, you control the narrative. You are no longer reacting. You are creating space for them to sit with the truth. That space is powerful because it forces them to recognize that they cannot control you. They cannot depend on your endless giving. They cannot assume your loyalty is unconditional. Absence becomes the language of self-respect. It says, I will not beg, I will not explain, I will not remain where I am not valued. And that message is often louder than any words you could ever say. Absence also heals you. By removing yourself, you give yourself the chance to breathe, to grow, to reflect on your own worth. Too often, people lose themselves trying to make others see their value. But when you step away, you reclaim that energy for yourself. You no longer pour into someone who cannot hold what you give. Instead, you pour back into yourself, and in that silence, you discover strength, clarity, and purpose. You begin to realize that absence isn't just about teaching others. It's about reminding yourself that you are whole, with or without them. That is a reflection that transforms not only them, but you as well. And when the reflection finally hits them, it is often too late. They begin to remember the times you were there when no one else was. They replay the moments when your presence lifted them, when your words carried them, when your loyalty shielded them. And now, all they are left with is silence, distance, and the memory of what they lost. That's the cruel truth about absence. It doesn't punish you. It punishes them. And the deeper the bond once was, the more unbearable that reflection becomes. So when you choose absence, understand this. It is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is the ultimate reminder that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to no longer be there at all. Regret is a silent storm. It doesn't announce itself with noise, and it doesn't strike with sudden fury. Instead, It creeps in slowly, quietly, and relentlessly. At first, people may feel confident in their choices. They may think they won when you walked away. They may feel pride in pushing you aside. They may even laugh at your silence. But time is cruel, and time has a way of stripping away illusions. Eventually, the silence grows heavier, and the emptiness you leave behind begins to echo. That's when regret enters, and regret is far more painful than any words you could have spoken. Regret is powerful because it can't be undone. You can take back harsh words, you can try to rebuild broken bridges, you can attempt to explain mistakes. But regret is permanent. Once someone realizes they have lost you, once they realize they mishandled your loyalty, once they see that you will never return in the same way, you become the ghost that haunts their memory. They will replay the moments they ignored you, the times they dismissed your worth, the chances they had to make it right but didn't. And that replay will torment them more than any punishment you could ever design. Here's the truth. Nothing cuts deeper than the realization that you can't get someone back. Not their laughter, not their loyalty, not their energy, not their presence. That void cannot be replaced. They may try to fill it with distractions, with new people, with noise, but nothing feels the same. Because no one else will ever match the authenticity you brought. No one else will ever replicate the way you cared. And the more they try to replace you, the more they are reminded of what they lost. That's the curse of regret. It doesn't go away. It only grows with time, and regret is not something you need to force. It happens naturally. That's the beauty of walking away with silence. You don't have to send reminders. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to demand accountability. Life has a way of teaching lessons you never could. Sooner or later, they will remember. Sooner or later, the weight of what they lost will fall on them. Sooner or later, the regret will burn deeper than your words ever could. And when it does, they'll realize too late that silence wasn't weakness. It was the beginning of their punishment. Regret is also cruel because it doesn't punish in one moment. It punishes over and over again. It wakes them up at night. It comes back in memories when they see someone who reminds them of you. It follows them in silence when they are alone with their thoughts. And the irony is this: the same silence they once ignored, the same presence they once took for granted, becomes the very silence that breaks them. Regret is not a punishment you deliver, it's a punishment they deliver to themselves every single day. That is why regret is the greatest punishment. It does not require anger, revenge, or confrontation. It does not require you to lower yourself or waste your energy. All it requires is for you to walk away, for you to stay silent, and for you to hold your dignity. Because regret will do the work for you. It will haunt them in ways you never could. It will burn them in places words can't reach. And in the end, regret will always speak louder than anything you could have said. One of the greatest battles you will ever face in life is choosing between self-respect and validation. Validation is tempting. We want to be seen, we want to be understood, we want to be appreciated. But here's the hard truth. When you chase validation, you give away your power. You put your worth in someone else's hands. You allow their recognition, or the lack of it, to define how you see yourself. And that is dangerous because people are inconsistent. One day they applaud you, the next day they forget you. If your value is tied to their approval, you'll spend your life begging for scraps of recognition. But when you choose self-respect, you don't need anyone to tell you who you are. You already know. Self-respect is saying, I don't need your applause to validate my worth. It's refusing to shrink yourself just to be liked. It's refusing to explain yourself just to be accepted. It's refusing to lower your standards just to be chosen. Self-respect is standing tall in your truth, even if it means standing alone. And here's the paradox. When you respect yourself, people can't help but notice. Your silence, your standards, your dignity, it commands attention. It demands respect, even from those who once overlooked you. That's the power of self-respect. You don't chase it, you attract it. Validation is external, but self-respect is internal. And what comes from within can never be taken away. If someone praises you today and ignores you tomorrow, you remain unshaken because your foundation is not built on their words. It's built on your truth. You don't crumble when they withdraw their attention. You don't break when they don't acknowledge you, because your worth was never in their hands to begin with. That's what makes you unbreakable. People lose control over you the moment you stop needing their approval. And here's the irony. The more you respect yourself, the more others begin to regret how they treated you. When you stop explaining, when you stop chasing, when you stop begging for validation, you show them you are not desperate. You show them that you are enough on your own. That realization hurts them more than any argument ever could. Because nothing stings like realizing the person they underestimated never needed them in the first place. Self-respect is not just a shield, it's a silent revenge. But don't misunderstand, self-respect is not arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than others. It's about knowing you are worthy and refusing to settle for less than what you deserve. It's about drawing boundaries that protect your soul. It's about having the strength to walk away from people, places, and situations that diminish your value. Arrogance screams, but self-respect is quiet. It doesn't need to prove, it doesn't need to compete, it doesn't need to explain. It simply says, I know who I am, and I refuse to accept less. That's why self-respect is so powerful. It is calm, but unshakable. At the end of the day, validation fades, but self-respect lasts forever. People may clap for you today and forget you tomorrow, but the respect you hold for yourself will carry you through every season of life. You can lose people. You can lose opportunities. You can lose approval. But if you keep your self-respect, you've lost nothing. Because self-respect is the foundation of freedom. It's the reason you can stay silent when others expect you to beg. It's the reason you can walk away when others expect you to stay. It's the reason you can sleep peacefully at night, knowing you didn't betray yourself just to please anyone else. And once you choose self-respect over validation, you'll never again let anyone define your worth. True strength doesn't always shout. It doesn't always announce itself with noise, anger, or aggression. In fact, the strongest people are often the quietest. They don't waste their energy trying to convince the world of who they are. They don't need to flex their power in every room they enter. Their silence carries a weight that words can't match. Real strength is calm, steady, and unshakable. It's not about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. And once you master yourself, you'll find you don't need to be loud to be powerful. Loud strength often comes from insecurity. People who are loud about their power are usually trying to hide weakness. They shout to cover fear. They boast to mask doubt. But when you are truly strong, you don't need to prove it. You know who you are, and that knowledge gives you peace. Silence is your evidence. You let your actions speak for you. You let your presence command the room, and those who are wise enough will always recognize the quiet strength that flows through you. The loud may draw attention, but the quiet leaves a deeper mark. Quiet strength is seen in patience. It's in the ability to wait without breaking, to endure without complaining, to trust that time will reveal what noise never could. Loud people rush to defend themselves, to argue, to prove. But the strong remain silent because they know the truth doesn't need defending. Time is the judge, and silence is the proof. And when the truth finally comes out, the strength of your patience will shine brighter than all the noise of your doubters. Quiet strength is also seen in restraint. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can explode when pushed. But it takes a giant to hold back, to remain calm when provoked, to choose silence when anger tempts you to scream. That kind of strength terrifies people because it shows you are in control. You are not driven by emotions, you are not controlled by ego, and you are not enslaved to reaction. That kind of restraint is power. It tells the world, you cannot control me, you cannot shake me. I choose when to speak, I choose when to act, and I choose when to remain silent. That is true strength, and here's the truth. Quiet strength leaves a stronger impact than loud strength ever could. People forget the words shouted in anger, but they never forget the silence that speaks louder than words. Silence lingers. It makes people think. It makes them wonder. It makes them uncomfortable. And in that discomfort, they are forced to reflect. That reflection is where regret grows, where guilt builds, where truth is revealed. Your quiet strength doesn't just protect your peace, it teaches others a lesson they can't ignore. So never confuse quiet with weakness. Never mistake silence for surrender. Quiet strength is the highest form of power because it doesn't rely on approval, attention, or recognition. It's unshakable, unmovable, untouchable. It's the strength of a mountain that doesn't need to roar to prove its presence. It simply exists, undeniable and eternal. And when you learn to embrace that quiet strength, you'll never again feel the need to waste your power on noise. You'll let the silence speak for you, and the world will hear it louder than anything else. The greatest mistake you can ever make is believing your worth depends on someone else's approval. Too many people live their lives chasing the opinions of others, trying to fit in, trying to be liked, trying to be chosen. But here's the truth. Your worth is not up for debate. It is not negotiable. It is not determined by how someone else sees you. You carried value the day you were born, and no one has the authority to strip that away. When you understand that, you stop begging for seats at tables where you were never meant to sit. You stop waiting for someone to validate you. You start walking like you already belong, because you do. People will try to put limits on you. They'll judge you, dismiss you, criticize you, and even laugh at you. But remember this, every time they do, they are revealing more about themselves than about you. Their approval or disapproval is a reflection of their own insecurities, not your truth. If you let their voices define your worth, you will live small, trapped in the prison of their opinions. But if you stand firm in who you are, you'll realize their approval was never necessary. You don't need permission to be valuable. You don't need validation to be powerful. You already are. Your worth is measured not by how others see you, but by how you see yourself. If you carry yourself with confidence, if you honor your own truth, if you refuse to shrink for anyone, people will notice, even the ones who once underestimated you, and those who fail to see your worth. That's their loss, not yours, because your value is not diminished by their blindness. A diamond doesn't stop being a diamond just because someone thinks it's a stone. A star doesn't stop shining just because someone is too blind to look up. Your worth remains the same, whether they recognize it or not. This is why silence is so powerful. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop begging people to see your value, when you stop seeking approval, you shift the balance of power. You show them that their opinion doesn't define you. You show them that you're not desperate to be understood. You're confident enough to walk away. And nothing burns more than realizing they had someone priceless in their presence, but they were too blind to see it. Your silence becomes a declaration. I don't need you to validate me. I validate myself. Your worth doesn't need applause. It doesn't need recognition. It doesn't need to be proven. The moment you realize this, you step into freedom. You no longer tie your identity to people who don't deserve you. You no longer sacrifice your peace for their approval. You no longer beg for a place in lives that can't handle your presence. Instead, you carry yourself with dignity, knowing that your worth was never in question. And that realization is what separates the strong from the broken, the free from the chained. And here's the most powerful part. When you stop needing approval, you become unstoppable. People can ignore you, but they cannot erase your value. They can reject you, but they cannot take away your purpose. They can doubt you, but they cannot diminish what was placed inside of you. Your worth doesn't change based on their acceptance. It remains constant. And one day, those who failed to see it will live with the weight of regret. But you'll keep moving, keep rising, keep shining, because your worth was never theirs to validate. It was always yours to own. So remember this: silence is not weakness, absence is not surrender, and walking away is not defeat. It is strength, it is dignity, it is power. Let them underestimate you, let them take you for granted, let them believe you will always be there. Because when you finally stop speaking, when you finally stop showing up, when you finally let the silence do the talking, regret will finish the conversation for you. Do not waste your breath on those who refuse to hear. Do not waste your presence on those who refuse to see. Protect your peace, guard your self-respect, and stand tall in your quiet strength. Because the moment you stop chasing approval, the moment you stop explaining your worth, the moment you choose silence over noise, you win. And when the silence settles, when your absence is felt, when regret begins to burn, then they will understand what they lost. But by then, it will be too late.